Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
And I'm Lauren. This month we read A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy I.
Judy I is a number one New York Times bestselling author of the Book of Tea duology, of which this is the first one. She was born in Taiwan and immigrated to Canada with her family at a young age. She grew up with her nose in a book and loved to escape to imaginary worlds. She now works as an occupational therapist and still spends her nights dreaming up imaginary worlds of her own. She lives on the Canadian prairies with her husband and daughters. Barbara, do you want to tell us a little bit about the book itself?
This was originally published on March 29th of 2022. The genre is considered fantasy, and it is 384 pages. Currently has a 3.8 on Goodreads, 4.4 on Barnes & Nobles, 4.5 on Amazon, and a 4.3 on Audible. It has been nominated for the Goodreads Choice Award for Young Adult Fantasy and Science Fiction in 2022 and won no awards as of the recording of this podcast. So we think it's important for readers to know what, if any, representation is in the books we read. So for this book, the whole book has POC characters, some LGBTQ plus characters, and minor characters with disabilities.
And Lauren, do you want to give us a brief synopsis?
For Ning, the only thing worse than losing her mother is knowing that it's her own fault. She was the one who unknowingly brewed the poison tea that killed her, the poison tea that now threatens to also take her sister's shoe. When Ning hears of a competition to find the kingdom's greatest shennong-shi, masters of the ancient and magical art of tea-making, she travels to the imperial city to compete. The winner will receive a favor from the princess, which may be Ning's only chance to save her sister's life. But between the backstabbing competitors, bloody court politics, and a mysterious and handsome boy with a shocking secret, Ning might actually be the one in more danger.
So, what did you think about A Magic Steeped in Poison? And remember, no spoilers.
I know we aren't supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I was immediately drawn to the beautiful cover of this book. So if you haven't checked it out, you need to go do so, because you'll do yourself a disservice if you haven't, because it's really, really a beautiful cover. And I think that's originally what drew me into it. But anyways, outside of that, I really did enjoy it. I liked the setting and the characters. Thought the magic system was so interesting, because it is literally in like tea. Like, the magic is the tea is the magic. And it's based off of actual like tea stuff. Like there's a whole like glossary about it in the back of the book, which I thought was really interesting. The only thing is I wish we had more about the magic and how it works. If I'm not mistaken, like I'm trying to think, like anyone who knows how to correctly brew like these teas, the magical teas, can do this. Because I know like they have apprenticeship and stuff like that. So I don't think it's like maybe you're born with it in the sense that like you can do it if you learn how to do it type thing. I don't think it's like some people don't have that ability. But that's what I'm saying. Like I don't really think that was ever explained. I'm hoping that it is better explained maybe in the second book of how this actually works. But that's what I wish we had more of, because I thought it was super interesting. I've never read a book where the magic is through this type of system.
I will say, based on reading the synopsis of the second book, we probably are going to get more of the magic system.
Right. I mean, I figured as much, and that's why I'm not trying to like ding it too much, but I thought the world building, the characters, I love them all.
I also really enjoyed this book, and I also need to give a shout out to the cover, because it is a really pretty cover. And I do think that is what drew Barbara to buy this book originally, was the the cover when we saw it at the bookstore. But it is a really good book. It's very interesting. It's very different. The magic system based in tea, like she said, was really cool. And I do also hope we get more of that. I also really enjoyed that there's a lot of really intricate political stuff in this book, which is not something that you often see in a YA. It's more of an adult thing normally when there's advanced politics. And so that was kind of neat, at least in the YAs I've read. You can't.
I was gonna say, I hate when you're like, I don't see this in YA. You're not reading the right YA books, then, dude. Gosh.
Guess I need to read some more political YA books. But in the meantime, I enjoyed the politics in this book. I thought they were well written, and I thought it was a very neat. The setting of the book and the world that the author created were just very, very engrossing and very, very enjoyable. I liked it.
Yes, I also wanted to give a nod to the cover art. I usually don't pick books based on covers, but if I saw this in a bookstore, similar to Barbara, I definitely would pick it up and check it out. Other than that, this one was a little bit slower for me to get into. I didn't not like it. I just didn't enjoy it right away as much as I thought I would. It had typical kind of YA tropes with the twists, like entering into a competition to save your loved one, etc. You see that sometimes. Not just YA, I guess, but more commonly. That were somewhat predictable, but still enjoyable to read. And then there were things like the magic of the tea itself that was not predictable to me. And I thought that that was really interesting to learn more about because it was kind of based, obviously, like the tea isn't actually magic, but a lot of like cultural stuff is kind of, it's kind of got its history roots too, which I thought was cool for like teas having healing properties and those different things. So drawing kind of on the cultural piece I thought was cool, and I did really enjoy the characters and the politics.
So like always, we're not going to go into our individual ratings right now. Got to wait till the end for that. But our group score for this one was an angering, to me, 7.083.
Barbara, you did a 0.25?
Because Barbara did an awful decimal, and we're gonna have a discussion about this off the recording. But yeah, 7.083 out of 10 is our score for this one. Moving on, would you recommend this book? Yeah, I think I would. I think that really, I think anybody who enjoys fantasy, I would recommend this too. I don't think that it's exclusively a YA thing. Someone who reads more adult fantasy than YA fantasy, I really enjoyed this, and I think that I could pretty safely recommend it. I also think the setting and some of the, I mean, obviously it's fiction, but it's based in the history and myth and folklore of that era and that place, and so that would add to the ability to recommend. I think it's pretty easy to recommend to anybody who likes fantasy. It was really good.
Yep, I think overall I would recommend it to friends who like YA and fantasy, like you said. I think I wouldn't put a broad label like everyone would enjoy this label on it. Like we've read some fantasy in the past where I'm like, man, this is one that could really appeal to everybody. And I feel like this one is more niche, so just in my personal opinion. But I did enjoy it, and I do have people that I would recommend it to. I just don't know that it crosses genres in that way, if that makes sense.
I think if you like YA and you like fantasy, I think you'd enjoy this book. I don't think it's like overly like complicated in the sense of trying to understand things. I think it's actually quite easy to pick up on. Like, yeah, there's a lot of characters, but it's not like an abundance of like Game of Thrones characters or Victoria Aveyard type, where it's just like, oh my gosh, there's too many, you can't understand. Easy enough to pick up on. I think the setting and the characters were amazing. I think if you like historical fantasy to an extent, because obviously it's based off of historical stuff, so it's not really like historical, but still, like I mentioned earlier, though, I wanted more of the magic. I think I'm just stupid and dumb and didn't understand it too much, but I believe we're getting that in the second book, like I said, so that's not too big of a problem. But I just thought it was super interesting. I think if you're looking for a fantasy book that is sure a little tropey, that's a thing in YA. Like, when we like that, that's the thing. That's why it keeps happening, because we enjoyed that. And I think if you're looking for a different magic system, I think you would really enjoy this book, because the magic system is so unique. And sometimes it's kind of boring to read the same type of magic system. This one has a really cool spin to it. So I think if that's what you're looking for, I think you would really enjoy it.
Well, for those of you leaving us at this point, don't forget to give us a rating if you like us. Also, make sure you're following us on both Facebook and Instagram. Our handle is @BadassLitPod. We want to hear from you. If you've got a book you want us to read, let us know. And now for a short preview of our next episode. Next month, we are reading Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. And thank you, Connie, for recommending the book.
Welcome to Sharon's Crossing. The tea is hot, the scones are fresh, and the dead are just passing through. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral, Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. Hilarious, haunting, and kind, Under the Whispering Door is an uplifting story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home.
Remember, the second part of this episode is an in-depth look at the book, so if you do want to read it, stop listening now and come back and listen to the rest when you're done. Nom Nom is fresh dog food made by real people who really care. They're purposeful and enthusiastic about giving your dog the best food for them and their health, so they can thrive and be their best. Nom Nom delivers fresh food made with whole ingredients backed by veterinary science. And science tells us that dog health starts in the bowl, so improving their diet is one of the best ways to help them live a long, happy life. All you have to do is order, pour, and serve. Barbara and I have 2 dogs, Luna, a husky, and Quinny, a Shih Tzu mix. Our 2 dogs love the beef mash recipe, but to be honest, I'd say Quinny's favorite is the turkey fare. She drools when that comes out of the fridge. Yes, I know, Luna. I'm going to tell them about that right now. Luna is an extremely picky eater and always has been. She usually takes forever to warm up to new food, but not with Nom Nom. She dove in immediately. Both dogs seemed to have more energy, and Luna's stools were no longer soft. Your dog's health starts in the gut. A better diet means softer coats, more energy, better breath, and smaller, more consistent stools. Your dog can't tell you if they're healthy, but you can tell when their health improves. It's the easiest way to take the guesswork out of feeding your dog the best. Nom Nom meals are pre-portioned for your dog's exact caloric needs. Board-certified vet nutritionists are kind of a big deal, and Nom Nom has 2 on staff that work extensively to ensure everything gets sent out is the very best for your dog's livelihood. So how does Nom Nom work? You tell them about your pup, age, breed, weight, allergies, and protein preferences. Then they tailor a specific amount of individually packaged Nom Nom meals and send them straight to you. Store the meals in the freezer or fridge until it's mealtime. They'll give you specific instructions on how to transition your dog from foods like kibble to always fresh Nom Nom for best results. Watch your dog clean their dishes, dance for dinner, and overall thrive. Ready to make the switch to fresh? Order Nom Nom today. Go to a link in the description of this episode and then use our referral code, BADASSLIT. That's BADASSLIT, and get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. Plus, Nom Nom comes with a money-back guarantee. If your dog's tail isn't wagging within 30 days, Nom Nom will refund your first order. No fillers, no nonsense, just Nom Nom. Now, for those of you sticking around for the spoilers, here we go. We'll start with how we always start with the spoiler section. Who are we nominating for the Badass Character Award for this book?
So I think the most obvious answer is Ning, obviously our main girl, our main character. She is flawed. She is badass in her own way. I really enjoyed her, especially because she's a little toxic in her love relationship. I'm like, okay, girl, because normally it's like always the dude, but like this time I feel like she was a little like meh, and I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. So obviously I'm gonna have to go with her, but I want to do a special shout out for how do you say it? Is it Ruji? I mean, y'all are the ones who listen to the audio, so
it's Ruyi.
It's been a minute since I listened.
Okay, well, a special shout out for Rui, who is the badass bodyguard to the princess. You normally don't see women being bodyguards, especially not in this type of setting, I feel like. So I thought that was actually really, really cool, and I absolutely loved her character and fell in love. So, special shout out for her. Although I'm starting to realize that the Asian culture appreciated women back then as bodyguards more than European countries did, so yay.
Accurate. Yep, accurate. So I think that Barbara's wrong about Ning being the obvious choice. I think the obvious choice is to nominate the Banished Prince because, you know, as the evil bad guy who's coming back to take over and kill everybody, I think he deserves the Badass Award for this book. Crickets. They're not even going to unmute their mic to pretend to laugh.
I mean, because you do this joke all the time. So after
I thought maybe you were
time...
serious. I didn't know. Maybe you were serial.
No, I think Ning is the. I actually do agree with Barbara. I think it's a close toss up between Ning and Ruyi, but I think Ning just maybe slightly outshines Ruyi a bit since she gets more screen time, so it gives her more of an opportunity to look like a badass. But yeah, she definitely is my nominee for the badass character.
And 3 for Ning. Yay, Ning!
You could have picked Kang, Michael. I don't know.
I could have, but I didn't. All right, we're going to do a quick character overview. So as we've already discussed a bunch at this point, Ning is the main character of the book. Her mother passed away. She was poisoned with a certain type of tea, and now her sister has been poisoned with that same type of tea. She's now going off, and yeah, I agree, Luna. She's now going off, and yep, that's a good point too. She's now going off and trying to get I just forgot the name of the thing. The shennong. She's trying
Shennong-shi.
shennong-shi competition to get the favor from the princess so that she can save her poisoned and dying sister, whose name is Shu. And now Barbara's going to tell us about.
I mean, Shu's just not really like, she's a plot point in the sense that her being poisoned is what drives Ning to leave her tiny little town and venture off into the big city to try to win this competition so she can get a favor to hopefully save her sister. That's Shu. Like, she's barely in it. The little that she is in it, she's great. Like, there's not what's not to love. She's a super supportive sister, because even she was like, Ning, you need to do this and all that jazz, and that's her sister. There's,
Spoiler alert, since we're in the spoiler section, Shu's going to play a much larger role in book 2, because
well, obviously, but I'm just saying, in this book,
spoiler alert, she lives.
Right. Her sister does in fact save her, but it doesn't matter, but that is Shu.
Lauren, do you want to tell us about Ruyi?
Ruyi is the bodyguard of Princess Zen. Full stop.
She's also the shadow. We find out the shadow's not an evil character. She was actually sent by the princess to figure out who is poisoning her people. And she is, spoiler alert, her and Princess Zen like each other.
They're lovers.
Okay, the next character is Lian. Lian is also in the shennong-shi competition with Ning. And if you do read the book, you'll learn that pretty much everybody in this competition is like cutthroat and wants to, in some cases, literally kill their competition. But Lian was the one nice one, and is Ning's friend, and she kind of shows her around the imperial city, and becomes her compatriot in this story. Even though they are competitors, they recognize that maybe it'd be good to be friends and help each other out in some cases as well. Barbara, would you like to tell us about Steward Yang?
I wouldn't. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so Steward Yang is, I feel like a dumb, well, you know what? We're not even going to mention that. She is a hard ass in the sense that she's like the main, what would you say? Like, she would be the main head person of like the like cooks and the maids and that. What is that called? Like a head. I mean, it's like the manager.
House. The head of house.
The manager?
Yes. Yeah. Head of house. Like, she's the one who like manages all of those. And come to find out that she was besties with Ning's mom, because Ning's mom, surprise, surprise, was from the palace and actually befriended the old empress lady. So that's kind of, and she kind of takes Ning after she was kind of a hard ass to her at first, like under her wing, and just kind of like guides her and helps her and essentially saves Ning's life later in the book.
And let's see, next up we've got Princess Zen. Princess Zen is the leader to be. She's next in line to be the emperor. Her father, the current emperor, is dead, but we don't know that until a little ways into the book. We find out that his political allies, I guess, are keeping that a secret to try to protect her and try to keep what ends up happening.
They don't want a coup.
Happening. Right. That's what I said. To keep what ends up happening from happening, because his brother, the banished prince, is. They don't want him to take advantage of the fact that it's a young girl that is, and she's not really like old enough to step up into the role and to come in and try to take advantage, even though he already clearly knew his brother was dead and was there to FS up at the end. But anyway, she's the princess. She's a really cool character. A lot of times in these kinds of books, the people that are in the royalty roles are kind of dicks, for lack of a better word. And I thought that she was pretty modest and was always very kind to the people that like Ning and Lian. And she's obviously has her love interest is Ruyi, her bodyguard, as we said previously, which is kind of a cool side story. But yeah, that is Princess Zen. And the last character we've got is Kang. Kang is Ning's love interest. She believes that he is just a sweet, attractive boy from the streets that she met in the imperial city and has fun, I guess, like mini dates with, that we're not really going to call dates because that's not what they would have called them, but she enjoys spending time with him. Come to find out, Kang is actually the son of the banished prince. He is the son of Princess Zen's cousin, son of his evil father, who's trying to, at the end of the book, take over the imperial city for himself. The father, I should say, not Kang.
I was going to say, Kang is there to to tell Zen that like he's not part of that and trying
Correct.
to like do all that
He's
jazz.
part of the resistance against his evil daddy.
No, because we really don't know.
No resistance.
I guess we won't know for sure until we get to the second book what his actual role in all of it is. But that's just a brief look at the characters. Our first question for this one is, what did you think of the writing style and content structure of the book?
So, I liked the writing style overall. Like I said earlier, I felt like the buildup was a bit slow for me, but I don't think that was necessarily due to style as much as the author trying to kind of do the upfront world building in like a first book sort of situation. And I also think that the audio reader, whatever you want to call that, like it's not like an author, but like whoever reads the audiobook.
The narrator?
The narrator, yeah. Or the voice actor is what I was thinking of, who does the audiobook. I also just didn't care for their voice. And so that all of those factors probably impacted my listening / enjoyment of the book. But I did like it overall.
So I enjoyed the writing style, and I feel like the structure of the book was fitting. Yes, it's a trope. Yes, it's used, but I enjoyed the way this one was done because it made sense to have a tournament for this, because I feel like some other YA books when I read that has a tournament style competition or a competition or whatever you want to say for the main character, and they're like, why are you joining this? Like, that logistically does not make sense. For this one, it makes all the sense. And I enjoyed the competition. I enjoyed the competition aspect of the book, just really lent itself well to the beats of the story. Like, it made sense. Like, we had this happened, yes, it's a little structured. Yes, it's a little obvious type thing. It's what's going to happen, but I thought it fit well within this, and I thought she did a good job of it. I was intrigued by the competition. I wasn't bored out of it. I thought overall it didn't feel slow or rushed to me because of that. I thought it was done well, but I know some people have an issue with that. I personally didn't. I thought it was done well. It kept me interested.
Until Lauren said that earlier, I did not realize that the competition was a trope in YA, and then I thought about it a little bit. And I mean, I haven't read as much as you guys have, but Hunger Games is the one that I have read, and that's like sister volunteers for competition to save sister, and that's what's happening here too. A little bit different paint job.
Oh no, there's a ton. There's a
lot of them. Yeah. Like, and not like this exact one, but like it's like a play off of the I got to compete to save myself, save my family, save the world.
Right. It's quite done often.
And before I forget, Barbara, you were asking earlier about who, like Steward Yang, what her title would it be in like English society or Europe? It would have been housekeeper. That was the top female side of the for the hierarchy of servants. I don't know what that would have been called. Maybe steward is the title for someone.
I think it is, yeah,
in China. But anyway, that's what I was trying to think of earlier. Was
who is Steward Yang? What was her title? Oh, I don't know, Barbara. Steward.
Right.
Yeah.
Ding ding ding. But
makes so much sense now.
Back to the question. Yes, I did like the writing style. There were a few times throughout the book that I definitely thought it was a little bit slow. But one thing I always do if I think that the book is slow, and I make myself at the end of the book say, okay, if you thought it was slow, what parts would you cut out? And there aren't any parts that I would cut out, because I think that everything that, even if it was slow, it was needed to, like you both said, to help build the world and to continue pushing the story forward. And so, yes, it was a little bit slow, but not so slow that it made me put the book down. And the stuff that you're reading is all important to the story. So I did enjoy the writing style as well as the content structure. Let's see. Next, in the beginning of A Magic Steeped in Poison, we learn the true wielders of Shennong magic have their unique specialties. Some brew teas for emotions, compassion, hope, love. Others are able to imbue the body with energy or encourage the drinker to remember something long thought lost. If you are a wielder of tea magic, what sort of magic would you hope to specialize in, and why?
I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. Not even the question in general. I'm just saying, you think magic system, you think fire, earth, ice, or like mind control, or like wands, or wizards. You think of that type. This is just so different because it could technically happen in the sense that like they do believe that these teas can't have healing how do you say the word, properties?
Properties.
Properties and all this stuff. So it's just based on that. You think about it, you're like, this is so fast. Anyways, I'm like going off on a tangent about tea, but I just found this so fascinating, and this is it, because like things that help with emotions or to remember. So, gosh, that's hard, but I feel like maybe the memory one, because I just find the mind super fascinating. I think it's something that we haven't even remotely tapped into. We just know a little about it, and your brain controls so much, and it's so interesting to me. So I think I would like the tea that does that. And also I just find it like tea itself lends really well, given the fact that like memory is so well tied to your senses, especially smell and taste. So I feel like that would be a cool way to maybe do that, just to help with that. I think that would be the one I would enjoy, because I'm all about smell and taste. Whoop, whoop.
I'm going to be honest, I really thought you were taking that in a way where you were going to say you were choosing memory so you could help me remember things, since I'm forgetful and it frustrates you from time to time.
No.
And if you had the magic powers to make me remember, I feel like
no, I just find memory like super fascinating. Like, why are you so forgetful?
My husband would also choose that one for me, Michael.
I would choose it for myself, to be honest.
Hashtag ADHD probs.
I would be right. I would be brewing the memory tea. That's literally going to be my choice. I would brew the memory tea just for myself all the time. Whenever Barbara and I are having a conversation and it's like, shit, I don't remember what that is. Like, hold on real quick. Let me make some tea. Stir it up. Take a drink. That's right. There it is.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should find some tea that helps with that. Did you think of that?
That would be so helpful. So yeah, I would probably either that or the one that imbues the body with energy. I think that'd be. I mean, that kind of feels like that's like maybe like a healing tea a little bit. I think that would be kind of interesting. Either to the memory for myself.
I'm surprised, Michael, you didn't choose poison.
You know what, Barbara? I'm not. I'm not the banished prince, Barbara. I'm not,
yeah.
So yeah, I would selfishly choose the memory one for myself, but also the healing one I think would be cool to be able to be like have healing power through tea would be very interesting.
Yep. I think the memory one for myself would be nice too, but the one that I chose for this would be brewing teas to help with certain emotions, because I thought, that was really a cool thing, and just because of my real world job as a therapist, I would utilize the healing magic of the teas, and then you could like specialize it to the drinker to basically allow them to fully experience and embrace their emotions that are necessary for them to process through and move forward. How badass would it be if I just could like steep them a cup of tea in my office, and then they could just like not have all of the barriers of that you have as like I don't know, kind of cool. Yeah. Kind of scary though. It'd be a little scary, but
it's a lot of power. Lauren.
I literally assumed that would be the one that you would pick for your.
I wouldn't
job.
want it for the power. I would want it so that they don't have to
help people
suffer
Barbara,
as long.
I know. I never said that. That was oh my god.
But yes, to help them not I don't know, just moving forward. Hey, I could use that for myself too, but I would probably choose the memory one for me. Maybe can I have both? Can I do a mix of the memory and the emotions and just take that for myself every day?
That's too much power for one person.
Too much power for one person.
Too much power in the tea.
Let's see. Next question. Ning sets out to save her sister's life in defiance of her father. Along the way, she finds herself in a newfound family of palace kitchen staff and friends. What did you take away from Ning's familial bonds, and was there anything about them that surprised or struck you? That's a good question. So I think that the way that her familial stuff was set up was really interesting, because obviously this is a YA book, and so she's young and she sees her dad's defiance of like not wanting her to go to do this competition and not wanting her to go. He doesn't want her to get hurt. Like, and I think that Ning sees it as like he doesn't want her to help save her sister, and like that's not at all. Like the dad's thinking like, I don't want to lose both my daughters. Like I already lost my wife. I think in some ways he's probably already started the grieving process for the other daughter because he knows that there's nothing can be done. And the odds of Ning doing successfully what she's going to do are not high. And so the dad he doesn't want to lose his entire family
the chosen one.
in one fell swoop. And sometimes the parents of the chosen one get a bad rap in these books because it makes them seem like dicks because they love their kids and don't want them to go off on these grand adventures. But I thought that, the dad was just being a dad. And I think that once Ning got to the Imperial City and some of the things started happening, I think that kind of clicked with her a little bit, that like maybe her dad was just looking out for her. But the found family was also really interesting. I enjoyed all the scenes that we got with her and the palace staff and the different interactions there. Seeing that a lot of the people that are in this competition were from like a higher class that wouldn't have been caught dead, socializing with the help. And that's not Ning. Ning felt more comfortable around the palace staff and the kitchen staff and other people that she met there than she did her fellow competitors. So it was really fun to see that. And I think that through her found family at the palace, she started to understand more about her actual family and some of the dynamics that were at play there. So yeah, I mean, I thought that none of it really surprised me, I guess, because it is found family is a trope outside of just YA. It's a trope across all media. So nothing really surprised me, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I like the found family trope. I think I also would agree with what you said about like just her dad probably not wanting to lose both of his kids and just not really knowing how to navigate. Like, obviously, I want you to go save your sister, but at the same time, like, what if I end up with nobody left? And so I think that, especially as a parent, I can see that perspective. I can also see why it would have not gone over well for Ning. And then I always like the found family trope. I think, a lot of times just in life, your people, like your tribe, your whoever you want to call them, that you kind of find along the way, and doesn't necessarily, sometimes in books it does replace their actual family because they are ostracized from a familial situation. But I think a lot of times it can be healing from the family of origin, and it can also, like Michael said, kind of provide perspective into the family that you came from. And I think, found family is some of the best family. No offense to my actual family, but
Shots fired.
No shots fired. I love my family, but
I am your actual family.
I know
what are
you are.
saying?
I'm not saying anything about you, Michael. But I think there is definitely something to be said for friends that become family. I think that's
True. Yep,
a good plot point in life and in fiction.
I mean, yeah, everything you guys just said. I love found family tropes in books, both what Michael mentioned and what Laura mentioned. This is a little different because I do think, in the sense that Ning still has a loving family, like she doesn't have a crap family, which most found family tropes in books are, like Lauren mentioned, like it's a replacement for your crap family, or maybe you're an orphan because you're the chosen one and you don't have a family. So it's that kind of stuff. But this one, it's more like she's adding to her loving family instead of a replacement, which was kind of nice to see someone not have a crappy family and a crappy life. Like her family yes, her mom lied to her about where she came from. Like we have that aspect, but like you can see that her mom loved her. Her dad clearly loves her because, like Michael mentioned, he's telling her no out of fear. It's not because it's like, you can't do it or you're a crappy human. Like it's fear of losing. He's lost everything and he doesn't want to keep losing more. So I thought this one was well done. I like to see this one as adding more to family and not replacing.
In Chapter 9, Ning discovers the banished prince is a recent figure in history and not scattered bones in a river, as she believed. How is the influence of the banished prince felt in the court and the palace?
So, I mean, his influence is still seen since he has people loyal to him and not with Princess Sin. They are still deferring to his wishes and undermining her and her dad, who's dead. And, like, what she's trying to do as the regent, like, it's pretty obvious that there's people who are loyal to him and they are literally part of the coup and they're trying to kill her. Because there was the poison for Cusco, like her bodyguard was the one who essentially saved her life and almost lost her life for all this stuff. So like he's all around there. Like he's banished, but he has secret followers that actually at the end of this book did in fact realize the coup. Like it happened. Now he's going to be placed in power and the princess is banished. Now she's the banished princess. So like that's how he's all over the place. Like he's got followers and people who were still loyal to him all over the place, and I believe the princess knew that and was trying to figure that out, and that's what led to the whole political thing.
Yeah, I thought it was really neat the political tactics of this, because this is talking about how like Ning is not from the imperial city. Ning is from the rural area, and she, as far as she knows, the banished prince is like, that's something that happened in history, and he's dead and it's long gone and it's never going to be a problem. And I think that when you get to the imperial city and you realize this, the court and the politics of the palace, they're very aware of the banished prince and they're very aware of what's going on, and it's a threat that they're aware of. But much like a lot of things that happen in our actual world and society, sometimes the government is aware of threats that they don't share with the people. And in this case, they've actually, disseminated the belief that the banished prince is long gone and it's nothing to be concerned about and everything is fine. And I think that Ning is not the only character in this world that believes that, because that's what the palace wants people to believe. They don't want people to be nervous. They don't want the fervor and the chaos of people wondering, is this banished prince going to come back? But I think, like Barbara mentioned, the princess is aware of it, and I think that the other people that are actively involved in court politics are aware of the threat and monitoring it. It's just not something that they want everybody to know about. That's why Ning did not. And so that was definitely a surprise for her when she found out that the banished prince is actually Princess Sen's uncle, and he is very much alive and very much still a threat. That was just not the message that the court wanted the king or the empire to know. Lauren, did you have anything to add after hearing Barbara and I talk, or are you?
I think you guys pretty much covered it.
Okay. The world building in A Magic Steeped in Poison includes a number of elements, including the tea magic system, the court politics, the mystery of the shadow, and the long cultural history of poetry and art. What stood out to you about the world building, and how did it influence your reading experience? Well, the world building of this was awesome. It was to the point that, obviously it's a world that's built kind of on top of the foundation of reality, in the sense that there's some realistic Chinese folklore and other things in this. But the world that the author built feels so real, that the connection that she made with reality made her world feel all the more real. The tea magic system was really well done and very, very different, as we've all said, I think, at one point, because it's different and it's not as obvious as other magic systems. I think that there's some belief that could go into because there would have been a time in history where people believed in a tea magic system, that they believed that tea and herbs and things could really do these magical things. And so that's not that far off base as it is when there's a book where people are like casting spells with their hands. And so yeah, the world building was incredible. I really enjoyed it. I remember when I got to the end of this book, it was very difficult not to just move right in to the next book, because I think that Barbara already has it on our bookshelf, and I really enjoyed it.
Of course I do.
I enjoyed the world building here as well. I feel like you covered most of what I was going to cover, but I feel like it was based in history, like we talked about before. And then what just stood out most to me were the references to the actual Chinese medicine and beliefs about tea and the healing properties that it has. So Michael pretty much covered that as far as kind of what I was thinking. Because, yeah, it's not as far-fetched as some magical fantasy that we read about where you're like casting spells and doing different things, or even like the earth, wind, fire, air kind of like a fantasy magical power type stuff. It's not as far-fetched as that. I mean, if you really think about it, it's still far-fetched, but because there's the history piece, I think it makes it feel more realistic, or more like it could actually happen.
Yeah.
So I liked that about it.
Yeah, I mean, world building was amazing. I thought this was one of the things that I enjoyed more, because I just wanted to know more about this world and how this world worked. I feel like I keep mentioning that I love that the magic was done via tea, so I'm not going to keep mentioning that over and over again, beating a dead horse at this point, but I'm excited to learn more about this. And it's, funnily enough, I'm normally not a fan of politics in books. I actually quite hate that part in books, but I enjoyed this one and I was hooked by it. Like, I feel like maybe it was, not to discredit it, saying like it was simple for me to digest, and that's what I mean by like simple. Like, it wasn't like, sometimes I feel like I am too dumb to understand politics in certain books, and I'm just like, what is happening? But this one was easily to digest for someone like me who struggles with politics, who doesn't enjoy reading that aspect of it, and I feel like this one was done well. And it was also cool to see how actual Chinese history and culture inspired this, and I just loved learning that via this book. I also want to mention the food, because it was done, like, it mentions the food quite often, because, you know, normally food is paired with tea, and so she described that. And I know some people probably like, oh my gosh, this is overdone, it's a lot of just random food and tea, but I actually enjoyed it. I love learning about that, and I was actually like Googling to see like what these dishes look like, or if it was actually real and all this stuff, and I found that really cool aspect of the book. I do think some people might not enjoy that as much as I did, but I thought it was really cool to see that and how it was paired with the teas, because I feel like normally that is how this is done. You know, you don't just drink tea, like you pair it with something, and the flavors and the aromas and everything goes well together. And I thought that was really cool to see that in this one.
All right. Moving on from there, in the first round of the competition, Ning is accused of quoting a revolutionary poet. While Ning didn't intend to quote a revolutionary, by the end she does speak up about inequality and fight back in her own way. Did any of these themes and Ning's own journey resonate with you?
So I think that it would be hard not to relate to Ning on some level, just as a human, as far as just walking through, you know, every hard stuff. Now, she, particularly with like the inequality piece, was really highlighted for her when she got to the competition. And I think just seeing like the politics and the classes and the different like levels of disparities between them caused, you know, some, I can't remember, like, what was the actual quote, if anybody has the book? Or maybe
the
we
actual
don't
revolutionary
have that.
quote?
Yeah, like the revolutionary quote that they're talking about. Because I remember this, like, part, but I don't remember, like, it would be helpful, like, to remember the reference of what she was actually saying. And maybe for our listeners might want to.
I literally have it here. I just turned it right to the page, I believe. Okay, so she says, the renowned poet Bai once penned a poem about my province. So she's talking about where she's from. So she starts, the figures toil on the distant hills, mist blurring them in the distance. The tea is served while I recline, my fingers ink stained. No more blessed than the fragrant scent of green. And that's it. And then they freak out. So, yeah, that's...
Yeah, that doesn't, like, clear things up for me. So, Michael, do you have any light to shed on that?
On the quote, or like what the, so that it's essentially
just like this question.
Sure, I would be happy to share my thoughts. So the thing that she shares is essentially it unintentionally directly the quote, like Barbara said, and it's essentially just along the lines of this, what the empire believes to be a revolutionary idea, because the poem is about, it's effectively, it would be the equivalent of, like, in America during the Cold War, someone standing up and sharing like Marxist ideas, Marxist communism ideas, in a time when, you know, the government was like, whoa, hold on, that's evil, let's not talk about these things. And so it's that would be the equivalent here, is that effectively she's reading or talking about something that's directly in line with the revolutionary ideas that are anti-empire.
Yeah, essentially he goes,
so she's too woke.
Yeah, he's like, are you calling us indulgent and spoiled? And she goes, no, like, his poem only means to suggest that tea is a drink for both peasants and poets. It can be enjoyed by lowest farmer in the highest ranks of the court as befitting your grand status. So they take it as, like, saying that, you know, I mean, it's literally essentially poor people calling out the rich, right? Like, that is essentially what was going on here.
Yep.
So. P.S.
And
that was a quote from the book. Do not sue us. I don't know how that works. So
we quote books a lot, I feel like.
It's okay to quote it.
Like, started at 62, so I don't know.
Just pretty evidently a quote. It's not like you were like, and this is my personal thoughts.
Right,
well,
this is my personal
making
thoughts.
sure. I don't know how
No.
this works. I just don't want to get sued.
That's
I
fair.
don't have the money.
I don't have the money.
Oh man. How do you not resonate with this? I feel like, of course you do. I feel like if you don't, then you're in the minority of people who have never experienced this, and that's a hell of a privilege to have. I feel like you're the 1%, which is, kudos to you, I guess. But I think for her, it was just the stark class disparities, since she came from a rural town and then going into a big city and seeing how privileged most of the other competitors are or were, I guess. But pretty much she's kind of the only one who's not used to that kind of stuff. And then she was always saying like how wasteful the people were, because like they had an abundance of food and all this stuff, while like people from her town were struggling because of the taxes that were imposed on them and all this stuff. And I feel like it was just that's why she saw how bleak it was, because like you don't really notice what you don't have until you see the people that do. And then she was seeing like how everything for them was in an abundance, and there were towns like hers that were struggling, and she finally was like, enough's enough. So found that interesting. I think that's what this was.
A Magic Steeped in Poison is the first book in a duology like we've been talking about. Considering the events and themes introduced in this book, what expectations or predictions do you have for the subsequent books, and what unresolved questions or storylines are you most interested in exploring further?
Yeah, I feel like we are left off with quite a few questions and storylines unresolved, as most
all of them.
as most books tend to be, like, was Kang telling the truth? What's his role in this? What does he know what his dad is doing? Was he lying? I feel like part of that all is going to be like in the middle, a gray area. What's his dad up to? Like, does he just want world domination, or does he just want what he believes is his rightful place as emperor, or does he want more? I believe he's like using old gods to world dominate, essentially, is kind of like what I got the idea of, like these old magical powers. And I thought that the scene of Ning saving her sister with like the creepy serpent thing was really cool. So it's like, obviously we're gonna get that, like these old gods that are briefly mentioned in the book and stuff like that. We're gonna get more of that. What's with the creepy poison? Once again, I think it's the old gods, and he probably made a deal with their what we would say a deal with the devil. He made a deal with the bad god. So that, I think that's going to be somewhere there. Like how are we going to deal with the coup? How is Princess Zen going to deal with this revolution that's going on and all this other stuff? So there's a lot going on. I feel like it was just set up to it, and we're going to hopefully get all the answers in the second book.
Yeah, like you said, it's pretty much like the cliffhanger of all cliffhangers. Like everything's left unopened. We got all these threads dangled in front of us, and there is no conclusion. And obviously, that's because there's going to be another book. The thing I'm most excited about learning is to kind of figure out everything that does happen with the coup that's happening with the Banished Prince, how that's all going to be concluded. Like, is there going to be like some big battle? Is it going to be more of a battle of wits, where it's like more of a political, like he does the coup and takes over, and they coup him right back, or what's going to end up happening?
The coup of the coups.
The coup of coups.
Just keep thinking like cuckoo.
Coups.
But no, that's what I'm most excited to figure out, is how that is going to happen. But obviously, there's lots of other questions, like Barbara mentioned, that I'm really interested in figuring out what's going to happen. I hope that we end up doing the sequel to this for a podcast episode. I think it would be fun to talk about book 2 at some point all together.
As a bonus if we want.
True.
Yes, you could use it as your pick.
I could. But then how would I make you read?
It'd probably be a fourth of the length of a book that you'd otherwise make me read.
No, you guys don't let me pick those. So.
Well, there's a limit, Michael.
I only got to do that one time, and I made Barbara read Name of the Wind. Now I don't get to do it anymore. So.
Michael thinks the limit does not exist.
That's a lot in 1 month. Technically less than a month, because we have to record mid-month. True. So it's like, can you just read like 10,000 pages in 2 weeks? Like, you don't have other life responsibilities.
Exactly.
I wish I could just do that, but
just let your children know, Lauren, that you've got other things you have to deal with.
Sure, I will let my 3 and 1 year old know that I have to.
I'm sure they'll.
I always just picture you reading and just like pushing on their face, like "Mommy's busy."
Mama's pussy.
If
Now it's
if
more like I reread the same 3 sentences 72 times because it's like I hear "mommy, mommy," so I just have to read after.
Have you seen that meme where it's like the old like Sims game and like the lady's on the computer and her baby's on fire in the background? It's that's the meme that. You haven't? I need to send you that meme. For all of my other Sims players, who knows what I'm talking about? It's the most funny. Well, it's a hilarious meme because it's literally like, and it like the thing is always like, no, baby, mommy's busy right now. Like she's playing computer games on her computer. And the baby's like on the floor on fire. Like,
That's
go.
So I think the ending set it up well for the second novel. I think it'll be interesting to see where the characters evolve, what happens next, more of the love story, more of the background and expansion on the sister's character, to see, because Michael already kind of spoiled that apparently we get more of her story in the next one, so kind of see how that evolves. I'm excited to see what happens next in subsequent. I am excited to see what happens in a subsequent novel. I think it would be interesting to read and see the love story progress and the sisters. Just see what happens. So if Michael wants to choose this one for his pick at some point, yeah.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
Wow. That sounds about right.
Oh, gosh.
See, people, this is what I have to deal with.
Oh, if only people actually knew what Lauren and I had to deal with you, but that's fine. We'll pretend.
We won't talk about my childhood trauma.
Anyway, let's talk about our individual scores for this book. Barbara, what did you give it? Give us your fun decimal score, Barbara.
Yeah, and I need to know the justification on this point.
Let's preface this. We originally were supposed to have done this book in September or something like that?
October.
Okay, well, in October. I had obviously read and rated this back then, and I completely forgot that October was the start of our new year for this, and so I was basing my rating originally. Okay, I feel like I have to explain. Originally, I used to base my scores on all the books we read, and I was like, that is just a lot to keep upkeep to try to figure out because it's not really fair. So then I moved it to in this last podcast, this year of our stuff, I'll just base it off the last year of what the books we read. And so I forgot that October was the start of the new year for my rating purposes. So I was basing it off the other books, and I was like, okay, well, it's not as good as this one, but it's better than this one. Hence the 0.25. Now, because I was an idiot, and there's 2 reasons because of that. I completely forgot that we restarted in October anyways, and B, now we're doing this much later than originally planned. The 0.25 does not make sense now, but this was done prior to, and I completely forgot. So that is my bad. My bad, y'all. So it stands as 8.25 because I really did enjoy this book. I liked, there was stuff that I'm missing that I want more of, and hopefully the second one gives me, but hence the 0.25. My apologies. But I will not be changing it.
That means you're not really apologizing then.
I am apologizing for causing you so much grief, but I stand behind my
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, it caused me decimal distress.
Okay.
I gave this book a 7 out of 10. Really enjoyed the book. I think it deserved that score.
I gave this one a 6 out of 10, and mainly just because I struggled to get into it. But I also think that when I do the audiobooks and I don't like the voice actor, it really impacts my enjoyment of the book. So I would be curious to see if I went back and physically read it, if I liked it better, or let's say we do the second book and I actually physically read it, or they have a better voice actor, then it might be okay.
Do they normally keep the same people? Do you know?
Sometimes they do. Okay. It just depends on, I think it depends how long,
in between,
because if the same person is still even doing it, there have definitely been series where the same voice actor does all of the books, and that's helpful. So obviously Jim Dale's version of Harry Potter is my favorite for the voice actors, because he does a really good job, and he does all of them. And then I'm trying to think, there's several other series where the same voice actor does it, and that's helpful. But if the voice actor sucks, then like I just have a really hard time with it.
Makes sense.
But-
I mean,
So I just looked that up, Lauren, and it's different voice actors. Instead of just being one person, it's actually two, a
That's
man
even
and a
better.
woman. So you're going to get multiple voice actors
Oh,
for
there you
different
go.
characters
Okay.
speaking. It
So
appears.
that
Well,
means
that'll
probably
be better then.
Yeah,
Probably.
because this book was first person point of view for Ning. So I'm assuming the second book probably has
You're probably going to get Kang's perspective,
Kang's
right?
perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's probably why. Interesting.
Well, that'll probably be better then, because I think it truly would have probably been a higher rating if I just had trouble. Like I would zone out in spots like listening, and I normally, with the whole focus situation, zone out some and have to go back and re-listen anyway. But I felt like for this one, there were like large spans where I was like, "Ah, crap! Like what?" And then I'd have to go back, and so yeah, I think that strongly it contributes to my rating.
At least you're honest about it. Some people are like, nah.
True. Well, guys, we've made it to the end of another episode. Make sure you are following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating and leave us a review if they allow you to. Really means a lot to you guys that do. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our username in both Instagram and Facebook is at Badass Lit Pod.
Have feedback about today's episodes? Well, you can contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. It only took me, 10 years to figure that one out. Anyways, you can also send us a DM or leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook.
As always, thank you so much for listening. I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
And this is Lauren.
Bye.
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 See you next time with more tea.
Good one. Subsequent because it's not subsequent.
Was that me who said that? Is that
was
what you
Michael?
That was me. I
Oh.
said subsequent.
So how is it subsequent, not subsequent?
I've always heard it pronounced subsequent.
There's multiple ways to
Subsequent.
pronounce it, but
I feel like
It's-
you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. That's just me. Maybe not. Maybe some. You can cut this part out too, so we don't get shit.
No,
Okay.
we don't get shit. Everyone's gonna be like, "Why you guys so mean to them?"
Dude, but they don't see in the chat that Michael's like, "You're a
Exactly.
loser, Lauren."
That's what I'm saying. I was like, if only people knew how rude he was to us in our chat. You know?
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
We can cut that part. Anyway, again,